Okay. First item, now that we have our quorum, approval of minutes of the following meeting, January 19th. Were there any changes? Anybody have corrections,
No.
anything? Nope. Okay.
I move we approve minutes.
My second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's approved. Great. Public comments, not on the agenda. Nobody's on Zoom. Nobody's here. Okay. We'll go on to item 4. Mural project. Chris was not able to be connected, but he did send an email. Electra, did you get a chance to look at that too?
You're muted again.
You're muted.
Sorry. Yes, Mike sent it to me. Yes.
Okay, so you've
Was
seen
able
it.
to.
Somebody here has seen it. I guess, any discussion? I kind of agree with what Chris chose.
Kind of agree. I thought that her some of her creations were kind of cartoonish. I liked Greg's the best myself.
Did you?
Yeah.
I think that any of the artists would work with it, so if you want to explore some of that.
I think they're all good.
They're all good. Yeah.
I agree.
I wonder if he would be, a lot more expensive than the others, given his extensive experience.
Yeah.
And I do like the idea of giving a more local artist.
There's an aspect
That's
of
right.
customer support too. If we see some, issues with it down the road, she'll have more incentive to come.
Well, and I like that Jenna has worked with metal before.
Mhm.
I think that's gonna be metal, and the unevenness is gonna really be something different
Mhm.
to figure out how to work.
I think both Jenna and Greg
Jenna and Greg were the top.
were
for me,
also
yeah.
familiar with working with cold weather climates. Leighton, a good young artist, could probably do it for a fraction of the cost, but you'd be taking some chances, I think. And he hopefully gets some good local projects to start and get his feet wet, but my vote
See
for
that.
Jenna.
We had something else that came in. Yeah,
If you wanted to see it, Leighton was the artist that submitted an updated layout description based on the conversation. He just plugged in a couple of those elements to,
Okay.
if you want
Sure, we
to.
have got
it.
We're gonna share my screen. Bring it up,
Hi, Matt.
share screen, so Electra can see it. But basically what he did is how you've got women
okay.
representation. Give me a second.
Are you sharing your screen?
I will in a second. I just. gotta
Okay.
get buttons.
I was just wondering if it was you already sharing it. I'm like, I'm not able to see it.
There we go.
There it is. Yep.
all right, well, thank you. That's all I
Yeah, I really
started
like
to
it.
see.
Thank you so much.
I still like the one from Jenna with, it's not as busy, and I think it would be able to be seen from a distance better than some of the others, than the other examples, I think.
Not just seen, but appreciated.
Yeah,
And all three artists, express the capabilities of being able to adapt a
To
design
adjust.
to,
Right.
yeah.
include elements of
Yeah.
preference, so.
So I think we've got Chris for Jenna, I'm for Jenna, you're for Jenna, you're for Leighton. And haven't heard from Electra.
Electra,
Jenna
did
and
you-
Greg, I agree with Chris. My first top were Jenna and Greg.
Fine,
looks
yeah,
like-
no, I don't have
okay.
any objection to it either. I'd be happy with any one of them.
Yeah.
frankly.
I think
Yeah,
they'd all
any of
be good,
them.
and they each have
Yes.
their
Okay.
pros and cons. I think.
Yes. But as long as they're willing to work with us,
Mhm.
that makes a big difference.
But I mean, to be honest, I'd go with any of Jenna's concepts she presented. I mean, if I were just to say, are you guys good with this? Anything she put up there would have been good. So,
Yeah,
Okay,
uh,
in that case, we need to consider a motion directing staff to negotiate a contract with Jenna, with our selected artists.
I so move.
second,
Okay,
Second. I'll second.
okay,
She can have the second.
yes, your
Um,
turn.
your turn, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't hear you.
No, that's fine.
You already said it.
Roll call.
All in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, passed. Okay.
Yeah, I will work with Wendy and Jenna and we'll get a contract put together and we'll try to get a schedule built out so that we can get the process going.
Great, okay. On to strategic plan then.
Did my screen change? Can you still see that? No.
I still see the mural.
Okay, hold on.
Which is probably more attractive.
Now,
To hire a graphic designer for your services.
Yeah, just maybe I should use Jenna and
Yeah.
get your attention. Okay. Should I try to drive
Try again?
this? Yeah. we might
It's
as
not, I'll
well.
drive it.
Which one is it?
Left click should go forward.
It does. Okay. And does right click go back?
You have to go manually to, yeah, it doesn't automatically go back. It's
Okay.
weird.
So I sent you some wording
Mhm.
for the goals. And tonight, so we'll go through the wording. We'll look at the vision statement that you revised, and then we'd like to get some success indicators and some strategies. And those will be, once again, a draft, but we'll get started on that. So
Okay.
let's just start. So we're really going to talk about how we will get there. Not only the where we want to be with the goals, but how we'll get there, and that's the strategies. So the revised mission statement is in front of you. You didn't change the mission statement, so I'm just giving you the revised mission statement to look at again. Any second thoughts on that? I said you would see it again. This is not the last time you will see it, but we're getting down there, so we want to get it sort of closer.
I like it.
I like them, yeah. Looks fine.
Okay, I'm not gonna belabor it. So we'll work with this and the mission statement with no changes. And then I developed some draft goals. Yeah, that's fine. So the wording, you have your communication and collaboration goal. You have your funding and financial sustainability goal, your infrastructure goal, and your community engagement goal. And these are some wording based on our discussion. So let's take some time to get these kind of in the forms that you want them. I don't have optimized, I'm sorry.
I think it's good.
Yeah, no, I like this.
Alfred, did you have any comments?
no,
So these are okay. This is not the last time you'll see them,
Yeah, I think they're fine. Yeah.
okay? All right, so I have sort of a rhythm to go through each goal, talk about success indicators, and then we'll talk about strategies that would move towards those success indicators. We're going to do that for each of the 4 goals. We can mix it up if that gets, if the order gets too tedious for you. But so first I wanted to talk a little bit about the link to the city's plan. We talked about the strategies would most likely link to the city's plan. And so I think if we look particularly at the values, there are some strategies that you can use to move towards those values that the city has mentioned in their plan, the equity value, the climate action, which you talked about with your infrastructure. And you have some partnerships and engagement concepts, particularly with your engagement goal. So there's also an opportunity, I think, if you look around the outside, there are some impact areas that the City Council's strategic plan discusses. And in housing and neighborhoods, they talk about active and inviting outdoor spaces. So there's a slight linkage there with how you've talked about using the space here, especially the viewing area. Mobility in the plan for the City Council, they talk about charging stations for EV vehicles, which is something you've talked about, as well as creating the infrastructure for future electrification of all kinds of things. So I think that there's a link in that mobility impact. Of course, in the economy impact, there's lots of linkage between what the airport does. Reinforcing that Iowa City is a premier community to locate businesses, appropriate infrastructure for businesses, cultivating a strong entrepreneurial sort of culture and those sorts of things. There's also two that would be interesting to play with, maybe in your strategies. Some things have come up in discussions with you. One is the Iowa City's image of the greatest small city for arts. So I know that you have a lot of activities out here. So maybe thinking about stronger linkages with art activities. Such the mural is one, I think that opens that door. And then the strengthen the Iowa River's role as a signature community amenity. You're so close to the river. Maybe there's a strategy, maybe there's something, maybe it won't come out in the plan necessarily, but maybe there will be sort of an opportunity within the 5 years of the plan.
Is there a river corridor plan that Iowa City has on the books?
I don't think so.
I mean, years ago, they talked about taking the Lowhead Dam out and putting in like a river rapids, kind of a
Right.
riprap.
There are within the city some conversations about the dam and the river itself. I don't believe rapids or any type of that kind of recreational activity is in the cards. But there is conversations of how to use the river as more of an asset.
Mhm.
We do have the boat ramp that's coming off of our area.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and whatever that plan is there a
Recycling
role
plan.
for us to play to at least link up with that? I mean, at one point, they're talking cycling trails on this side of the river. That's
Yep.
kind of a given, but if there was more, they were dealing with shoreline restoration or, how can we kind of link up and complement that?
The projects that I know they're talking about right now and something that they want to get done kind of this fiscal year is the Sturgis Ferry I don't want to say redevelopment, but beautification.
Yeah.
They are, and I've been working with both Parks and Rec and engineering and yes, because we're all involved. So the goal is to put a shelter, kind of a parking area or fix up the boat ramp a little bit. And then also have the recycling station. So all of those recycling bins that are typically like around town, at least to have accessible drop off points for those. There's also going to be some sidewalk, at least initially there. And I think that's going to be our kickoff for getting that whole sidewalk along Riverside Drive. So things are in progress.
But I say that because of the proximity and as an amenity, it might be an attractor that you talk about to get pilots to fly in. I'm not sure. It'll probably be something opportunistic. Maybe there's not a strategy at this point, but just planting a seed for that, just because, like I said, of the proximity and the Sturgis Ferry sort of development, tweaking, whatever it's called. And then the safety and well-being, there's a build community by fostering social connections and developing safe, accessible spaces for gathering. And once again, that's something that you've talked about with the airport. So I think that there are some really good linkages to the city's strategic plan, and we'll make sure to call those out once you've developed your strategies and talked about success indicators. Also in the city's plan, they talk about the resources of facilities, equipment and technology, people and funding as resources necessary to implement the plan, similar to how you guys are talking about infrastructure and finances. And I mentioned to Mike before this meeting, the one thing that came out in my conversation with the city manager is when we talk about people, you have one person, and the airport doesn't currently have a succession plan for if Mike wanted to, like I said, hit the lottery or leave or take a long vacation. So I just want to plant that seed too, that might not be in your plan necessarily, but when you think of infrastructure, also thinking of your systems that are in place. This is a unique department within the city. Having one expert, there's nobody in the city who could step in. So I think that that would be an important consideration for your sustainability, something to think about. So that, any questions or comments about linkages to the council's plan? Because I think that's really important. And I think that that's an expectation of the city council. And we'll make sure to, draw those lines, but things to think about. Electra, did you have any comments about that? Linkage to the city's plan?
No,
Okay. All right. First goal. The strong communication and collaboration with the city council, the city administration and other city departments.
Regina, but before you move forward, I do agree with you about the succession plan. Not necessarily succession, but if something were to happen to Mike, whether or not we might need somebody else there. So I don't know if that's something that we can discuss now or later, or what everybody else feels about that.
The kinds of questions I ask, but thoughts? In 5 years, sometimes I ask people to just fast forward themselves to 5 years from now, looking back on this goal. And I say, did you achieve your goal or did you move towards your goal? What would we see?
Well, examples of collaboration, probably the parking lot's the one that comes to mind initially, but
Snow plowing.
Sharing with that, mowing.
do we share the model?
Public Works?
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec.
Kind of a. Yeah, we partner for like the highways and the lot over by McDonald's that we have.
I think an indicator would be having us go to city council and do presentations. And again, that was one of the things we
Yeah.
had about commission members going.
Well, and also, I agree with that, but also influencing what the city is planning to do, for example, with the sidewalk we've been talking about along Riverside Drive. I think the airport feels a little isolated physically. You can drive here, but that's the only way you can get here.
I would also point out, I mean, the mural was but for the relationship with public art.
Yep.
And we had a lot of discussions with Parks and Rec over the past few years as well. One thing that I would caution is whether city council is an effective forum for engagement, or if it's more of the subcommittees that we would be better engaged with. Electra and I went to city council last year, and we spoke.
Say hi.
Yeah, we said hi, but it's a very different kind of meeting than what we do here. It's not something that, we check things off there, they check things off the list. So I don't know if there's other more working level forums that this commission could engage.
Well, I've been going to the Parks and Rec meetings.
Okay.
As a neighborhood representative, but also I've talked with them about some of the airport things too. So I think definitely be sure to connect with Parks and Rec.
Electra?
They're very interesting, those Park and Rec meetings.
Is there on the mobility side, is there a planning group within the city that we could connect with? I mean, is there putting together bus schedules, or thinking about electric buses, or thinking about light rail, or thinking about access to light rail? Is there a way that we can make sure that we're coordinated with them and again, a plug-in point, because we're not, other than kind of ad hoc, we're not really plugged in today.
Yeah, I think that from the plan and jump in, Mike, with your thoughts.
And maybe Mike's got it already. We're just
Well, from the plan, it's kind of giving direction to staff. And I think that when it comes to the mobility, the conversation about you can only get to the airport by car, I think that that's something that would benefit city council to hear. What do you think?
I think you could approach it from, both ends of the spectrum and, have that discussion with city council about, these are ways we think to help the airport, but also with Parks and Rec, because they're the ones putting the initial plans together.
Is it
Uh,
Parks and Rec that's putting?
it's because it's meant to be a trail.
That
They
is,
have
I'm sorry,
trails.
sorry.
Yeah,
Parks and
but
Rec
as
trails.
far as some of the other stuff like bus schedules, that would be transit.
Mhm.
I don't know that they're, the MPOJC, the Metropolitan. Planning organization, that they do a lot of the traffic planning and. There'll be some of the group that's heavily involved in the redesign of the corner up here at the Highway 6 and
Mhm.
Highway 1 corner. That would be the organization, I guess, probably where I would send somebody if they were gonna ask about things like that.
Right,
So there's definitely a variety of places we could probably connect to.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it just depends on the particular topic on which avenue is.
yeah, and
probably
I'm
the
just trying to
best.
caution us that
Yeah.
going to the city council is kind of like going to a board meeting.
Yeah.
Where what you really need to do is just know the project team is working on the things that impact you and interface there, so.
But
Well-
the advantage of going to city council is there's a lot of people who watch that. So you're also getting your information out. At least I've got a lot of neighbors that watch the reruns of city council meetings and see what's going on. So it's not just the minute we're there, but it's also getting out past the city council.
Then if we are gonna do it, we've got to think about it as a kind of a one-way communication forum, and we need to be very tight on our message. It can't be just, hey, I'm gonna show up and I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It needs to be very, very
right.
scripted, tight. Get it out, get it clean and get it done.
There also might be work sessions with the council or more back and forth, and I think it would be entirely appropriate to present your strategic plan once it's finalized and some of the projects that you see that link to their strategic plan, the trail, for example. And then talk about some of the things that you're doing, particularly with climate action. I think the council would be interested. If you did a work session with them, that would be more back and forth.
And you
Yeah.
participate in those work sessions now, right? Yeah.
When there's airport items, like it depends on, yeah, primarily if there's airport items, I will be at the meetings, otherwise I'm not typically in council meetings.
So you would have to get on the work session agenda, but I
Yeah.
don't think it would be bad necessarily to talk to the city manager and the mayor to get on a work session agenda after you've approved your strategic plan. 15 minutes, 10 minutes, it'll be in the packet, the
Mhm.
plan would be in the packet. And then you could just type message, go through some highlights and emphasize some areas where you would like, and then ask them if they have any questions, and that could be more your back and forth.
Okay.
Any other success indicators? Here are some of them that you had in the last plan. And they don't have specific measurables about how many times necessarily, except an annual report presentation. Those sorts of things, but it's generally the same types of things you're talking about. And do you do an annual report? And do you present that or does a commission member?
Generally, I have one of the commission members present it,
Is that something you want to, that would continue to be part of this?
I think
and
so.
it becomes. The way we've used city council meetings at this point is more. Putting names to faces,
Mhm.
because when they appoint
Mhm.
commission
Yeah.
members,
Yeah.
they don't necessarily. Know who you are.
Mhm.
But it's to put names with faces, especially because we do rotate chairs around, so kind of the leadership changes quite often and. But otherwise, yeah, the annual report is usually one where, the chair and secretary are to, present. Kind of the executive summary of it, and then, we haven't done quarterly meetings, but if there's something else that. Semi-annual, annual, it just,
Yeah.
we haven't, collectively, we haven't been very good about the
What
quarter.
I'd say is, maybe we need to be a little more
So-
active, if we need to.
It becomes one of those things, either we do need to make this a
Yeah.
priority, or maybe we shift that goal into. And if we are talking about more control, more defined conversations with other boards,
Right.
commissions,
Mhm.
entities.
Right.
Maybe that's where that that communication piece picks up in terms of collaboration and we're not focusing quite so hard on council unless we need to.
Yeah, my only concern with city council, it's a highly parliamentary process
Yeah.
and there's no engagement on it.
And
Yeah.
there's,
But you do get phone calls back. I'll give like a 3-minute talk. Because you're allowed the 3-minute
Mhm.
thing to talk. And I'll hear back within the next couple of days from 3 or 4 different council members and have a conversation directly with them.
Hmm.
So you do,
I think a lot of it depends on why
Yeah.
you're there to talk, when,
Yeah.
what the purpose is.
Well, it wouldn't be bad to do, like I said, the strategic plan and maybe the
Yeah.
annual report at a work session,
Yeah.
annual
Get some
report,
feedback, yeah.
ask for 5 minutes on the
Mhm.
work session agenda. And then it does
Yeah.
allow for, that is the forum for the back and forth. Another thing that you had on the success indicators is that you want members of the city council to be familiar with the airport, so touring the airport. So invitations, it's an odd
Yeah.
numbered year, so it's a city council election year, so you'll want to be aware of who is running. I believe that gazillion years ago when I ran, I think I had an invitation to come out here and tour as a candidate.
Mhm.
And so you can be more
Yeah.
proactive. It might be a strategy, it might be a success indicator, but I would suggest that it's good if your elected officials are familiar with the airport.
okay,
Absolutely.
And we still offer those invites, so they've been less taken up in recent history.
Mhm.
I think maybe if they got to
Offer
go
that-
on.
Well, that's,
Yeah, that would be more
we
appealing.
do have a flight instructor and
Or flight instruction.
Sure.
We
Collector?
could put them on the
Easier.
simulator too.
Yeah.
Instruction and-
Yes.
Did you have anything? I'm trying to make sure I don't forget you back there or you're behind.
No,
me.
yeah, no. If I have something, I'll let you know.
Okay. Anything else that comes to mind as an indicator that when you look back, you want to have done? I think part of this is opportunistic. You can check off the projects that are with city departments,
Mhm.
right? Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the strategies that build the communication and collaboration. Right now you have the mural project. And you'll have the continued cooperation with snow removal, mowing, that kind of thing.
We've been talking now about communication, right? So do those things, get more.
the Sturgis Ferry thing.
And maybe you just develop a 6-month plan for communication. What are we going to do? Council? Is it Parks and Rec? What do we need? Be very strategic about it. Because in 3 years, you won't necessarily
It'd be
know
different.
what projects you want to talk about.
Plus, we need to know what the city is planning too. For example, on this pathway along the
Mhm.
river on here. What's their timeline? You know, the last time we tried to talk to them about it, they basically said, yeah, we're thinking about that.
Well, it's not on the CIP.
So maybe the work session, as Regina suggested, would be a great idea to do.
I don't think it would be bad to do one work session a year.
well, and there's, we don't have to necessarily go, like, we can invite Julie, the Parks and Rec director, out to one of the meetings and just we, kind of what's Parks and Rec doing that maybe we can assist on. So it doesn't have to be,
Mhm.
necessarily the full board meeting together. And I know, as far as I'm aware, at least, their staff is always happy to
Oh,
Could,
yeah.
kind
could
of
we invite,
come around.
if you look at the key departments that we want, could we, like every other month invite a group,
This is a great idea.
have them come in, give them
Yeah, that's a
15,
good
20
idea.
minutes, give an overview of what's going on, what their plans are for the next 12 months and so that we at least have an awareness and have that understanding as we look at
And
projects.
we could present them with how they might benefit us too.
Mhm.
And you might
Good
also just invite the city administrator out to talk broadly about the strategic plan and how the airport can be involved, given your plan.
I think those are all the right ideas.
Okay.
Who were some of the other people when we went to the budget meeting? Because a lot of them were very familiar with working with you, so they all look. familiar.
Well, I mean, you're at
Yeah,
staff
you.
meetings,
I know.
right?
Yeah,
You still
that,
attend
but the
department.
budget meeting was basically the city manager's office, so Jeff and was Redmond there, I don't remember if Redmond was there yet. The finance director.
Oh, the finance director, yeah. Okay, so that wouldn't be, it.
Assistant city manager, I think Rachel was in the meeting.
yeah, okay,
but-
so the others,
Yeah, and then Angie is the budget analyst. Angie has moved up, like she was the accounting representative that dealt with basically our accounts receivable and payables.
but now she's.
So she's already familiar with the airport and kind of our budget. Just in general of doing all of that, but then, yeah, she became a kind of a broader budget analyst person.
And Rachel was on the call that I had with the city manager talking about this process. So, I mean, probably wouldn't be bad to, connect with both of them or have them out.
Yeah, okay,
There was something else that came up, I was thinking.
When you mentioned the succession plan for Mike, is there someone in the city? I have no idea who this would be, who could come to our regular meetings or regularly meet with Mike and become familiar with what he does and maybe be prepared to step in if needed?
Well, what the city administrator said to me, or city manager,
Yeah.
work with both so many times. He looked at me and he said, I don't have anybody in the city who could step in. And, there was that look in his face that's just like, and I thought, oh my gosh, I mean,
Yeah.
the Public Works Department would probably be the closest, but I can't even think of
Right
anybody.
now,
Yeah.
I think
we just did that job, description.
yeah,
And there's nobody
Right.
else.
but
No one could unless they start to familiarize
Yeah.
themselves.
well,
But
what we
we need a
did,
pilot.
what we did though is and you've been working on it, is the knowledge retention document.
Yes,
Just trying to make sure that we've got documentation of where everything is and who to work with. So I think the plan
That's a
is
good start.
if there were a reason to step in, the commission would essentially
Right,
jump in and we
the
would,
commission could, yeah.
yeah, but to the extent of actual
This is-
succession planning.
These are details like. we're
but that's
working on.
not a super, I mean,
That's-
and I think once that
Where things
document
are.
is completed. One of these collaborations communications thing is for the chair and Mike to go to city, to meet with the city manager's office to talk about that and what. So they understand.
Mhm. We're not trying to knock you off.
No,
Well,
it's good, and I think,
Well, and a lot of it, I think, would come with the FBO.
When you feel restrained to take time off, to go on vacation, when you have something come up, because there's nobody else to be there when you're not there.
Historically, there was a time when the airport
Yes,
was run by just the FBO management. Wasn't a city thing. There was a time when there was 2 employees. So there's been different things at our other airports. Burlington has an airport manager and they have like an assistant. So they'd have a second person. Macomb has a part-time person who used to also run the FBO. They just was retired, so he's just in the airport stuff. Galesburg doesn't have a living soul. They just have the streets department come plow the airport. And they just now, for the first time in 50 years, are putting together an advisory board for the airport. Other than that, they haven't had, but as a result of that, they also haven't nearly applied for the grants that we have done. So I think in an emergency, 90-day situation where you're able to find somebody, we have the ability to make it.
We could
But-
divide in between.
but part of that too is, I mean, at least in my work with other organizations, is understanding what the commission needs to do within that 90 days. So it doesn't,
Yeah.
I mean. the lottery situation.
And another idea too is do we partner with some airports in the region for planning? I mean, we could have someone who would be ready to step in at one or two, maybe three airports. There might be working over here, maybe they rotate in over here.
Yeah,
Their plan is to become a manager at this airport, but if something happens, they can step in.
right, but I think regardless of what that looks like, because it really is up to the commission, to develop that. I think once you've developed that, the communication with the city administration, that would be a great thing. Because I mean, if I were the manager and had a department that only had one staff, I think that it would be one of those things that might keep you up on some nights.
I panicked when he was sick for 2 days.
Right.
But we've done a lot to find connections for temporary.
Right.
So I don't feel as panicked as I did 3 months ago.
And although the commission is probably more involved than most boards at the city level, the airport commission waxes and wanes in its level of involvement depending upon the people around the table. So, but to think of that, I think that that's an opportunity for communication once the plan is done. Anything else? Let's see. Oh, I also remember, to add to your department list, I remember reading something about having a story time out here. So don't forget the library, because I know that you've done
yeah,
collaborations with them. So having the library or their bookmobile person come out here and present to you is another department. Okay, let's keep moving through. So the success indicators for your financial goal, your financial sustainability, this is really self-evident, but what will success look like in this area to this commission?
Maybe we'll balance our budget.
And
Have enough income to cover expenses.
I'd like to broaden our income, find other sources of income as much as we can.
Mhm.
And yes, absolutely, balance our budget. Have
Definitely, excess.
maintain a cash reserve
yes.
for emergencies.
And this is another area, as I think about the direction that the city's finances are going, particularly with what's going on at state level and other things. I think the continued financial sustainability and the continued financial independence of the airport is a good thing, because if the airport ever had to be on the list of things to get funded by the city, I'm not sure how it would fare, given, the tightening budget at that level, police and fire. You'd be in line behind some other departments, I think.
Yeah.
So here are some. I mean, you really did succeed in you had does not exceed 10%. Well, you've become basically financially independent from the city's general fund. Once again, you wanted to have diversified and sustainable funding streams, and I think you want further diversification is what I'm hearing from you. As Judy mentioned, you want revenue that covers operational expenses, but you also want a reserve fund,
Yes.
which is always important when you have capital assets. And then adequate grant funding to upgrade and maintain high quality facilities. I think that probably is still in there, but is the word adequate the right word?
Probably.
Okay.
There's
All right.
only so much, there's a lot of stuff we'd like to do, but you can only apply for grants for certain things.
Right.
Well, and we still only have a limited supply of matching funds that we can throw out there.
And you really only have, I mean, I get RFP information across my desk all the time. I never see anything. I mean, it's only federal and state funding for
Right.
airports, really. It's not,
Yeah.
Yeah.
there aren't private foundations out there looking to fund airports.
Well,
Are there?
we have that one,
McKinsey
the found-
Scott isn't
the
lining up,
foundation that we're looking at to help cover the cost of the mural.
right? The community
Yeah.
But
foundation.
that's,
And
those
that,
are for interest, land
But
based.
we have to do the
But
legwork
we
to
have to
get
do
that
that.
funded.
Right, so that has to come from donors. We now have a mechanism to receive
Yeah,
right,
the donations, but if we want to, that is another stream of revenue or revenue stream. And it's something too, where are you going to use it for ad hoc projects? Are you going to use it to endow something? Are you going to use it in the terminal project for, for naming rights, those sorts of things? I don't know.
well, that might be a strategy that you consider as we think about financial sustainability strategies. You might think, now that you have a tool. Did I do? oh,
No, you're good.
Okay.
Fletcher was the.
Now that you have a tool, you might think of talking with a fundraising consultant and seeing what opportunities your concept of endowing, I don't know if there's a donor out there, but why not endow the airport manager position? I mean,
Right.
if you were a university.
whoops.
I mean, the university, my wife works at the foundation. I mean, that's another public institution that's different from the airport, and they receive, tens of millions of dollars
Right,
to endow, positions. So,
right. I can't think of what that donor profile might look like, but there might be somebody out there. So I don't think that as part of your strategies, that might be something to explore, is to explore the possibility of private donations beyond the mural project.
I can imagine the profile.
Good,
So,
great.
You're in charge
And
of that one.
well, and you have a connection to somebody who understands fundraising, so I think that you all can have a strategic conversation about what that might look like. And you'll be able to get your feet wet with the mural project, get a taste for it, get in front of some people, understand what that looks like. With a very specific kind of, kind of easy to sell project. And private donations, that might open up a world of opportunity, especially if you think about renovating the terminal building or some aspects of this.
Exactly.
I mean, naming rights,
Naming.
anybody?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think financially, it doesn't necessarily have to be a goal or a specific goal, but. Matt's not gonna like to hear this, but I think you're gonna have to look at your fuel storage fees within the next 5 years, maybe even sooner, but. We have increased hangar rates. Quite a bit since I've been here. And especially this last year, we did the 10% raise.
I think it's time for the fuel fees to come back up again. We had kind of put it on hold because of fuel prices and
So
inflation.
we're still gonna have to do things to.
So that's a
annually adjust
strategy
for-
still
for
in trying to get a
inflation
new-
and.
Some new
Yeah.
hangars for more
Yeah,
people
I
coming
mean,
in, that would.
And that's where. Because where it's still such a break even budget, even after the hangar fees, having that extra income gives us the ability to, even if we don't do anything with the terminal building up with the study, we have the capabilities of continually setting money aside. So in 10 years, we can redo carpets, we can redo, things to enhance the customer relation, customer service side of things. But also if we have hangar development opportunities, we have funds that we can entice people, whether that's assisting with apron development or.
And just building up a reserve. I mean, things are
Yeah.
getting more expensive to repair.
Absolutely.
So we never know, there's gonna be something that has to be addressed.
And even our grant managing has been $100,000 a year since, that's been a city council resolution since the 80s.
Maybe we should ask about that.
So I mean, that's,
If there's
It
opportunity,
goes a lot less far than it did in the eighties.
and they would understand that, if there's an opportunity that would make a difference, I think that's an opportunity for that very focused ask
Have we
and conversation.
run up against limits because we didn't have enough matching funds?
we haven't had any projects where we didn't pursue because of limited funds, but we also kind of look at it in a 5-year picture where one year we might be spending $150,000. The next year we might be spending, $75,000. So it becomes a 5-year window that we look at. And as long as that 5-year window is about $500,000, everybody's pretty happy.
Yeah,
But
yeah, we ought to consider, again, if it's been since the eighties, if that's been in place, in real terms, things are 10 times more expensive.
Oh, yeah.
than they were then.
Yeah.
Not asking for $1 million matching funds.
and
Yeah,
some of the projects we have coming up, provided, well, even now with the bill money that, is just extra money that is not typically things we have access to. We really don't have matching funds for those,
Yeah.
but we have projects that the city's behind and have said, yeah, we'll make sure you got money for it.
do you have any additional land that is not making you money? Do you have any land that you can rent? Additional
Rent
land?
it out as farmland now.
Is that, the farmland is rented, right? Okay.
Yeah, basically. our-
Everything is making money that it
Everything.
can make money.
Yes.
Okay.
And the issue we have is like the south side of the airport.
Right.
We could commercialize some of that, but the problem is if you take enough of that away from the farm ground, you're gonna lose the farming lease because you're not gonna have enough to make it worthwhile, right? Farm.
Right.
So that becomes the.
Right. It's a balancing
Yeah.
act, but basically you're saying that you're maximizing every asset that you have.
I would say we are.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
But there certainly are other things.
How about, along Riverside here in this large grassy area with our fighter plane and stuff sitting there,
I'm sure that's big enough for much of anything, was it?
a restaurant in the parking lot or something like that.
Mm,
Doesn't have to be our restaurant, but I mean, if there's unused land that we use to park cars on occasionally. Could it
Yeah,
be used
that'd
for
be-
some, could it
It
be?
could be used for something different. It becomes, that cost benefit trade-off of,
Bringing in utilities and.
well, I mean, the
infrastructure.
nice thing about this area is utilities are here.
Yeah.
You don't have to go very far for utilities. Other places it becomes an issue, or there's other issues like on the south where you got the floodplain issues.
Are there any assets that we should consider decommissioning?
Estonians still would like that plane,
Well,
but that's,
I meant like,
different.
just like a building that's got a lot of maintenance or.
I don't know that anything we have outside of this building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Is really
I don't think so either.
costing us dramatically.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It's that just kind of throw that out.
But it's a question that you should be
But,
asking on a
yeah,
regular
no,
basis. Are we maximizing and should we decommission anything? Because you've got a really tight budget.
Might be able to get them down for this building.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We may try to go after some sort of historic, but anyway.
well,
But
yeah,
the limitations
historic,
that
that's
typically
limit,
come with that too, but
federal, yeah.
And again, I'm not an expert on this, but I'm pretty sure naming rights can go with donations. That's how the Stead Family Hospital got built. That's how pretty much every named building on campus got built.
And would
Do
you
that in
be
the
subject
budget,
to the city's naming policy or as an independent commission, that might be something to explore because the city did develop a naming policy.
I
don't
would
know how
assume,
Closely it adheres to it.
But would
I mean, I think the commission has the authority to go their own direction, but I would guess we would still want to play by the broader rules
We
of
certainly
but would the FAA,
We'd want to
be
have
involved
their,
blessing.
oh, yeah,
yeah. You wouldn't want to go off and do something that they didn't.
Right, but I'm just pointing out that as you explore that, there are current naming rights that
Yeah,
you might want to get it, ahead of. Okay, anything else insofar as strategies? I mean, this is a pretty straightforward area. You know, minimize expenses, maximize revenue, right? I mean,
And
And,
some of those other
Yeah.
projects that we're doing, the whole solar power thing, it'll
Yeah.
help and.
Right.
You know, we just turned an entire runway into LED lighting and we got plans to do the other one with the next
Yeah.
project
That's
coming
certainly
up,
help
so.
our expenses.
Even if that solar project is a couple of years down the road, we're gonna see savings from that transition.
which kind of leads us to the infrastructure conversation. So when you talk about success indicators in this area, what do we expect to see in 5 years?
Probably hangar space.
The hanging space is good.
I mean, most of the key infrastructure, airside runway and stuff, I mean, there's still some things left, I know, but most of the big ones have been done now.
All speaker change.
Electra,
They changed to
Electra
the-
speaker.
Can you still see me? Hear me?
Yeah, we can,
Yeah.
hear you. It's just
Barely.
the TV.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Let me turn the volume.
Yeah, that was. So you were saying, you were saying that most of your,
Like, we got the taxiway runways, we still have some threshold extensions, runway extensions.
Aprons.
At the apron. There's still the idea of that second taxiway on.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, those are gonna take care of themselves with the FAA funding, you know, as it becomes available, so it's not.
It looks like it's scheduled out. for the
Yeah,
next few
unless
years.
we have, you know, a dramatic windfall of money. I don't know that there's anything we're gonna advance quicker than.
But I would say the big things
But-
are hangars
Mhm.
and terminal. But
and you will have completed your terminal plan study, your terminal study. I mean, that's all we can say at this point, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Because that'll roll out. Should we also include the airport master completion of projects included in there? I think we need to, I mean, that's still something that you go by, the airport master plan. So we should
Yeah.
include that.
what was that?
Would the expansion of the parking lot be included as a success indicator?
For the past,
Yeah, but are we thinking of adding the charging stations for the,
Oh, like EV stations and.
for the electric cars? Would that be part of it or no? It's,
We can make it part of our solar power review. I don't know that it's currently a part of that at the moment. I'll talk to CMT, but
Do you want to put that in success indicators or do you want to say explore charging stations for a strategy?
I like it better, the
Explore.
strategy, yeah.
yeah. Strategy. Better hope to get it done that fast in 5 years.
Well, probably, it's just if you partner with someone who.
And
It's-
the solar study should also be in the infrastructure completion of that study, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Should be.
completion of the study and completion of some type of system.
Completion of you want to call it just, call it solar system. That's
Solar
really
energy-
confusing.
solar energy
Solar
project.
energy project.
Yeah,
Okay,
open to wording.
well, you'll see wording and you can take it. So strategies, so last time you talked about advocating for that sidewalk.
still doing that.
Should we put the sidewalk or the trail as a success indicator?
I would certainly think it's. something-
Let's be bold and try it there.
That's something we
You've been talking about it for,
We-
I mean, this will be 10 years, you
We
know.
all would like to see that.
Well, I think that it's in line with what the city would like to see. You also had things like paint the airport hangar, so I'm assuming that complete the mural.
Yes,
I mean, that's
We
it.
did paint the hangers since last time, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, we just haven't hit all of them.
We still need the airfare Well,
You talked about landscaping would be, I mean, you're gonna have to remove those trees.
yeah,
So, I mean, is that something that will be completed in 5 years?
it better be, or those trees will fall over.
Well, that's one way to get rid of a
Well,
tree,
it'll also be called out in the terminal study.
Yes.
Yeah.
right?
Where would the signs fall into? The new signs that we are waiting?
Well, the signs that we've approved. Could that be under a success?
It could be.
It'll be
I
done by
mean,
then.
It'll be done this spring, summer.
If you hold it to summer, you can check it off your list. This is a big improvement.
Sounds good. Thank you, Electra.
So the strategies basically are the studies. And that sort of thing, and then moving ahead with some of your, do you have capital project? I mean, what are the capital projects that are under grant right now?
Right now, the 1230 runway reconfiguration. The terminal building study has its go letter
C1.
and. We have the general blessing of the solar power project that we want to do, but we don't have, like, that's too common.
Right,
Um,
okay. Project study. So basically, a lot of your strategies are studies that you're undertaking.
Pretty much,
Okay,
at least for the next year.
which
Yeah.
seems prudent.
Kind of August.
The new
Waiting.
T hangar infrastructure, right?
Pardon me?
The new infrastructure is big.
The T hangar,
T
yeah,
hangar.
that's right.
Yeah.
Taxi lane for
T
days.
hangar taxi.
Okay. And then your last goal, the engagement goal. Success indicators for this. Now, last time this was mentioned, you wanted to increase community use and you mentioned aviation and community uses in one. And so, you talked about use of the meeting room, community events, number of attendees at community events and social media activity. As well as economic development, activity.
we've-
Still keep going.
I think we've accomplished a lot of this remarkably well considering the pandemic.
Right.
But, and certainly we could be increasing.
So what, I mean, this goal had a little bit different flavor than the last one. What are you thinking of for success? You're talking about more community engagement. And not necessarily aviation uses. So what will you look at? And I mean, is it improvement in those kinds of surveys where people, I mean, you talked about the survey a lot when it came to engagement, but that's kind of a random, you can't control externality.
Mhm.
Well, I think the fact that we have aviation should be an attraction to a lot of people in the community if we had events that they were interested in coming to. I think we should leverage the aviation activity to attract
Like fly-ins and things.
fly-ins would be one.
Oh,
thing.
this where we can add the restaurant.
Right.
That'd be in the terminal study.
That'll be-
Leverage aviation activity to attract.
And you know, what else,
Public.
I mean, for example, the idea of having kids come and help paint the murals, you know, stuff like that.
I think those are the real opportunities with kids. You know, not saying air show, but there was a show we came out to when we first moved here and I was saying here in 2001.
Yeah,
And I've got pictures of the kids in little pedal airplanes. And, you know, on a Saturday to have something to go and take the kids to do. You know, whether it's a small carnival or something that just kind of brings them in and builds that goodwill.
Were you there for the, I remember they had the paper airplane contest drawing by age groups and they had little awards and things.
Mhm.
Oh, the Bly Island was. I think that's where we did that.
Was that fire? Okay.
Yeah, we did fly Iowa, what was that, 2014?
Is there something you can do with the flight school to get people, I mean, is there a community kind of a general activity? I mean, it might not be all community, but it might be a selected, I mean, I'm just trying to think of aviation attraction, not just having movies on a hangar.
Well, they did Young Eagles flights.
Right, yeah,
Yeah,
we-
those are
we have high school groups, aviation interest groups come in and we give them tours and talk to them about, aviation as a career, everything from mechanics to pilots.
I would say that's increased
That's
Probably.
definitely,
threefold in the last 5 years.
Is that high school or community college or high school?
mostly high school.
Or high school.
Um,
Now, okay, so is that something that they come to you or you go to them? I mean, are you proactive or are you reactive or responsive?
Typically reactive, other than a lot of them have turned into annual things like the Kirkwood, what was that, Kirkwood
Community College, yeah.
Center?
I think it's the Kirkwood Community College, but they work with high schools.
They work with high school students, and so
Yeah.
now we do that
Mhm.
scheduled one per semester, basically,
Yeah.
when they come out with 20 high school kids at a time.
And if that wouldn't happen,
Uh-huh.
if you missed a semester, who would have the flag go up and who would respond? I mean, those are the kinds of things I think that happen. I mean, would you notice it or would you guys notice it?
Probably wouldn't.
Yeah, I think there would be something that
The FBO?
the FBO would notice.
Okay.
Flight instructors.
But there are two avenues there. There's a STEM avenue and then there is a
Yeah.
a vocational avenue.
And this is more vocational.
And I think that's where the real value and opportunity is too, is the vocational side, because these are gonna be really welcoming jobs going forward. We're running out of workforce.
Okay, so that's aviation. Are there other uses, strategies that you want to think about? I mean, you have partnerships with, is it Summer of the Arts that you work with, or is it Parks and Rec for the movies?
Summer of the Arts.
And I mean, for this year, at least the mural is gonna be a really neat project. I think if we can work in some some community participation in that, it'd be great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you could work with nonprofits, you could work with the district, any given child in the district does K through 8 arts activities. There are nonprofits that work with kids. I mean, you just got to kind of identify the partner link.
Maybe we could ask our artist to perhaps engage with the schools about that. Maybe kids could, create their own little proposed designs and have a contest.
I could see security problems, safety problems, having the kids come and help around them.
Well, not necessarily come and help, but if at schools even,
Oh,
in their
they
art class,
come up
they
with
were drawing.
Drawings of what they
Yeah,
would like to
yeah.
see.
Well, or even have the muralists go to classrooms and talk
Exactly.
about that to build
Yes.
excitement
Mhm.
for, I'm assuming you'll have a ribbon cutting or a community event, right?
What-
For the mural when it's completed?
Yeah. we'll do
Sure.
that.
There is a little space, kind of between the fence and the road in front of the hangars, more space than any other place we got. I mean, we could maybe just kind of mow it nice and tight in those areas so that people could, if they want to come see the mural, they can still be on the outside of the fence, but
Put up some picnic tables.
maybe there's trees there.
So
I don't
people
know, like,
can't, I
Kids out
mean,
there.
Okay.
you're not gonna be able to
Maybe benches
interact
that look-
with the mural per se.
Some benches that face the mural.
The mural's intent is the interaction is the engagement from the road
To look at it.
and from different places.
Well, and if there's opportunity, we could work with the artists for actual hands-on painting, but it just takes a
That'd be-
little bit of,
That'd be really
coordination.
hard to work around people using the hangars and.
We would work with them. We basically move their planes out of the hangars and put them in the jet air hangars or something for that day.
you got 5 doors and 2 of them are right there.
But since we're choosing a local artist, they might have a relationship with the school art programs or professor, not professors, but teachers.
I'll give you.
They
some-
might know them.
Yeah.
And that would be a good way to, one, like Regina said, go and get excitement and present the project in their classes and show them what the vision is and see which of the kids might be interested. And then it would be by the guidance of both of them, not just our artists, but their teachers. And that way it wouldn't be like so many kids under our artists.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna put a community activity linked to the mural.
Yeah.
Because that's feasibility and scheduling and contacts and all that. And I told Mike that I could provide him some district names. Because I've worked with art projects in the district. But you also, like I said, have all your nonprofits that are youth serving as well, neighborhood centers, United Action for Youth. You know, so there are lots of opportunities. But as you say, it's not like every mural project. It's not like a downtown mural project where people can go up and be
Yeah.
hands-on. So and then you're gonna have basically a community launch, a community ribbon cutting for the mural, right? I don't know what that looks like. but
Yeah, I'm not sure what that looks like right now, but we're gonna do something.
Community event associated with mural unveiling.
I haven't thought quite that far ahead.
Really?
Well, not specific.
Funding sorted out first.
Yeah,
Well, and to a certain degree, if you think about strategies, the whole fundraising campaign is an engagement strategy,
Yeah.
right?
I actually think that you can get some engagement with the non-aviation community through this.
Oh, yeah.
Because there are, I mean, yeah, I know people who are ready to donate pretty nice big sums of money for something like this that have no connection to the airport at all.
okay. Be nice then.
So don't limit, we want to limit ourselves to just airport use. I think it's a real community engagement. I mean, as we talk about being good neighbors, this is one of those opportunities to use our canvas.
Okay, yeah.
Who's, and will you be working with a fundraising advisor for that or?
Not an advisor per se, it's just the
We're
community
Connected
foundation.
with that foundation, but
So we don't have
We don't
anyone
have a
lined up
real
for
advisor.
fundraising,
not yet.
unless they've got somebody.
which I don't believe they do. It'd be up to us to,
Yeah.
if we wanted to hire somebody to coordinate that.
Actually, there is a student of yours who works at the foundation. She just soloed. She's a tail dragger. She flies a 140. She actually doesn't fly here. She flies at
Oh.
Galesburg.
Okay, she's not my student.
Okay, she's one of Matt's students then.
Yeah.
But you got a really enthusiastic fundraiser with
Ooh,
the University Foundation. I can't think of her name. Oh,
That,
you should be on the subcommittee.
yeah, I think that would be,
I can talk about my neighbor, Lynette Marshall, who runs the foundation.
and you
You're
know,
the subcommittee. I can see
and
it
the
right now.
university also has a nonprofit leadership certificate, and they have fundraising classes.
Okay.
My students don't do fundraising for those classes because I teach adjunct in that, but there are fundraising classes, so students might want to add this to their, this would be a great portfolio project.
You wouldn't have to pay a student.
That's-
Well, it's a portfolio, potentially a portfolio project in that,
Yeah.
I mean, not that it's hard to hire, get hired as fundraiser. So, but when we talk about this engagement aspect of it, you're gonna have a lot of opportunity in this fundraising project to
Yeah.
increase understanding.
Uh-huh.
Because if you
Yeah,
don't, you're
perfect.
not gonna get the funding really. So I
Yeah.
think that might be for the next year or so. A primary strategy is your mural project plus your partnerships with. I mean, that's what I've
Yeah.
heard you say. Are there any other, and I saw in your agenda, you have some regular activities coming up.
Yeah,
And those are annual things that you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything about the social media or the communication aspect?
Love to have more people running stuff.
What?
I would love to have more people to run stuff, because trying to run 4 different social media accounts and have things to post or post things and.
I mean, the university has marketing curriculums that are geared toward social media. Content. I mean, could we find students, with the university that would be able to, jump in
For free?
Yeah, for free. Yeah.
Do you use like Social Pilot or something that you can program all your posts?
Not at the moment.
I run social media for another organization and that's what I've started doing. So that might be a help. But yeah, marketing classes as well.
I mean,
But any goals or strategies around number of, I mean, you had the article when the study came out, but it's cutting through the noise to increase the understanding. So think about, and maybe this is something you want to explore for strategies, is thinking about, we want to get this in front of people X number of times, sort of thing.
A quarterly press release.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
A press release or a social post that links to the economic benefits, or a social post X number of times that links to this. Just being very strategic about, which is hard.
Yeah, well, it's actually gonna get a lot easier because you can have ChatGPT write it for you now.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
really good.
We
Yes.
have an election year coming up. It seems like we always have political candidates coming through.
I think this year is going to be different, because the Democrats need to get their stuff together, and Republicans don't tend to come to Iowa City.
Well, you have your point there.
No, I don't think we're gonna get the attention anymore.
No,
I think
yeah,
we're going to see a shift in the activity around election season.
No, I hadn't
Which is
thought of it.
bad because it was a lot of activity, like.
It was.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap up. The question that I also have is, a lot of strategies fall kind of to Mike. Are there any specific strategies besides the city council and those kinds of things that and probably the fundraising campaign, correct?
Yes.
That are commission responsibilities, right?
Either that or we're gonna have to give Mike some.
Yeah.
So that's something that we can talk about, but I think that that's something you also want to think about, because the success of the plan, I mean, he's good, but the entire
Can't do all
success
of
of the
it,
plan is on his shoulders, really. And so thinking about what role the commission plays, what part, what pieces of strategy the commission takes. And then, I mean, obviously this mural project seems like a commission project, so figuring out that. And a little bit about the the first goal and the last goal. I think that there are opportunities for commission involvement, particularly. That
I've
makes
been
sense.
involved with the mural part. So I can
Yeah,
help
no,
you
you've
with
done
that.
great real stuff. Like the fundraising is going to be the
Fundraising
next big
is gonna
piece
be-
that we'll all need to
yeah.
take a chunk of. And
I can still help with the mural.
Yeah. So thinking about that, we didn't in the last plan really assign responsibilities. On a lot of plans I do, but it's such a public document. I think assigning responsibilities, but internally
Yeah,
at your meetings, I think as you talk about the plan and progress on the plan, remembering to divide up those responsibilities, I think is going to be important to the success.
Yeah, we've done.
good. We're meeting. Okay.
Yeah, we usually create subcommittees when something
Right.
like that we target. So.
And so you might want to think about for the first goal and the last goal is really doing some subcommittees to manage some of those strategies. Obviously, a lot of the first goal with connection with city departments falls on Mike naturally, but you're going to strengthen those ties if you have have more people involved. So the next step is really to develop a draft plan. We're really done taking an hour out of your meetings.
Okay.
Woo-hoo.
So maybe your meetings will get shorter. And I appreciate you doing that. So what I'll do is, I think I'll plan by your April meeting
Okay.
to have a draft. And that will give us ample time if, so sometime between your March and April meeting, get you a draft of the plan itself. Full plan with these. So we can mark through it, take some time at the April meeting, maybe a half an hour, or get me comments before the April meeting. Confirm those comments in a shorter period of time at the April meeting, and then get a final draft for adoption. I think we said in May, right?
May or June.
But,
Great.
but I think we have a buffer that if we still wanted to tweak after the May meeting, we would still have time. Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
And nothing against you, Regina. You were awesome. Thank you so much for all your assistance. It's just like.
Oh, you'll see me back.
We-
And I'll leave in with Chris for any of these.
Yeah.
What I might do is send you all the draft strategies and success indicators as a starter.
That'd be great.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Airport construction projects, 4C. FAA
All right,
grant. thing.
4C, everything here is basically everything I've been talking about for the last 2 months.
Yeah.
The only difference is the 1230 consultant agreement has to go through an independent fee review. So it takes a third party to look at the scope and
Oh.
provide a cost. So that's in progress right now.
Okay.
The solar power project, CMT has given me their draft scope. I've sent it off to the FAA for blessing. That scope initially will cover essentially an electrical usage review to make sure we're sizing the system, because again, we just took an entire runway and made it LED, and we're planning on doing that with the other one. So there has been changes of usage, so confirming the size of the system we need, confirming the ability of the buildings that we expect to be putting panels on to support those panels, and dealing with a couple environmental things. That's a under $40,000 agreement that's in the works, and that'll be eligible for reimbursement as part of everything. So again, that's at FAA for their concurrence, so I can bring it to the commission to sign off on. Everything else, this is February. I expect the call for state grants to happen in April. Right now, my plan would be for the next pieces of taxi lane project on the south side that weren't able to get done in the initial project, that we take a look at that. And then also in the next couple of years, I want to replace the fuel storage front end equipment. So the motor and the filter system, and because that's all original equipment.
Would the south taxiway potentially include access to those Ts or not? Traditional access to the Ts?
Yeah, I think it does.
Additional X.
I think you got an extra.
A secondary
Yeah.
access.
Yeah, secondary access. Development there.
We'll take a look at it. I think. I'm not exactly sure how we pull that off, but yeah, we'll take a look at it.
I thought you had that in one set of drawings that I saw.
I've got, I think it's connected to the parallel segment.
Right.
So what we would do, what we would go after the state for, at least my initial thought was that second strip of taxi lane that just goes down the 200 feet or so.
Mhm.
Not necessarily a secondary access, but
Oh.
that allows for the building essentially on the other side where we'll have that gap. Because the one we're doing right now, it'll be able to be built on both sides, and then the
Right.
second one just gets the
Just the
western edge.
Right.
There's also the area where the box hangers are, that has that little cutout, because we didn't get that third hanger built. Where it wouldn't be a bad idea to fill that out anyway, just for space.
Yeah.
And also maybe entice somebody to build that last box.
Yeah.
So that, but yeah, we can take a
That's
look at that secondary access too, and make that And maybe make that a state grant application.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Parking lot addition, same thing, waiting for spring, make sure everything is looking good, make sure our seed and stuff like that comes up. Just kind of a short turnaround in meetings, that not a whole lot of things have
Yeah.
transpired.
The project is done, airport operations, ready for that.
Yeah, budget, we're halfway through, a little over halfway now through the budget cycle, so things so far are.
Okay.
I don't want to jinx myself for the last half of the year, but things are looking pretty okay again. Everybody knows how tight our budget is for major things to happen, and kind of one of those things to just keep in the back of your head as we look at future budgets, or again, have those conversations of fuel flow or hangar rates next
Yeah.
year. Things aren't getting cheaper, that's for sure. Annual report, I think I actually failed to put the annual report in the packet. That's the one big piece I missed. I did get comments from Judy. It's not super critical that we approved it tonight anyway, but if you do have comments on it, if you do have things to clarify, get them to me. We'll throw that back on the agenda with everybody, and then we'll I think it'd be good to wrap that up, but probably and maybe delay giving it to council and do it as part of the strategic plan, and you have everything kind of together, since we know that's coming, and that's going to be one of our goals. So events, the couple of things, drive-in movie, it's looking like that movie will be I believe it was the first weekend of August. That was proposed to us for the movie at the airport. I don't think the schedule is out yet for Summer of the Arts. That's why it's still listed as to be determined. Young Eagles, I have made contact with those guys, and we're looking at the first weekend in June for the Young Eagles event for the year. So that'll give us, again, a few activities throughout the course of the summer, wrap it up at the end of the year with the pancake breakfast like we always do. Always on the lookout for more things or more opportunities. So if there are things that we can do, that's kind of all I got.
Right,
Yeah.
Right, good, yeah.
Okay, great. FBO. Hi, okay.
Here's the maintenance sheet download. Was it included this time?
I don't think
it was,
yeah.
but
I think I got it a little later than
I thought,
expected.
basically, there's nothing all that exciting other than fuel filters and snow plowing.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think this year definitely, like I mentioned last time, the brush has been the most handy piece of equipment we've ever had, just because a lot of times what we're trying to do is accelerate melting and just get stuff off. So anyway, that's been really, really good. Today they did a good job plowing everything off. They waited until it was done, so they didn't compact it down to turn it into ice tonight, but almost done. I mean, once it started warming up, they got going on it, and so that worked out really good. That's pretty much it on the maintenance side of things. On jet air side, we're still busy in a lot of areas, although flight activity is definitely slowing down, like in terms of charter flight activity requests and things like that. And that's kind of an industry wide. I think everybody's starting to see things definitely normalize in terms of, back to 2019 numbers or 20, something like that, as opposed to they just catapulted way up beyond what anybody could handle. So now they're getting back to normal, but it'll be interesting to see what that does from the industry perspective, because everybody, prices spooled up way high, and businesses spooled up way high with staffing and airplanes and equipment, often buying stuff that was overpriced and things like that when they did. Jet Air is not in that standpoint, so that's good.
Right.
So are you starting to see prices fall?
We're starting to see prices fall. Inventory is going up on sales of airplanes too, and not huge. In some markets are still extremely tight, but other markets you're definitely starting to see, at least 10-15% more inventory than there were before.
Mhm.
And they take a little bit to get added.
Mhm.
So it seems like that's gonna be an interesting factor for the year. Jet Air is really fortunate. We didn't, like I say, we were extremely conservative throughout. But I anticipate to see other operators have problems if it continues like that way. So anyway, and there might be opportunities that come up because of that. So we're excited for that kind of stuff, but just still cautious. Shops are still busy and they will probably be busy forever with the shortage of mechanics.
Yeah.
So everything there is going good. Jet Air, we've been talking about potentially building something this building season. We're thinking we're probably not going to build this building season here, but I had two customers reach out to me this week about wanting to set up a meeting about building something here. So I'm gonna sit down with them. And Mike has talked to one of them about, land lease stuff a little bit, and we'll see if we can convince them to do something. It'll definitely take a lot of work on our end to help. There's a lot of things about constructing at an airport that's different, even if they have a construction background and they built things before. There's a lot of things to keep in mind. So it'll definitely be an investment on our end in time at a minimum to help them get something done.
So we need to add that into the solar ideas too,
Well-
adding into that building, if we're adding.
Adding in that area.
building-wise.
Well, and if something gets constructed, I mean, that's a good thing to keep in mind because of the pavement that you're adding to have access to for your system. But all the development that would happen would tie into the current
Oh, okay,
power supplies, like the current. What's the right word? Like the
Your power grid.
power grid, but I mean, even the right
okay, so.
generator locations, whatever that, transformer locations are all gonna stay the same.
Okay.
But anyway, so that's something we're gonna help do. Weather has been a part of the factor. The tours, like I mentioned earlier, I think there's one tomorrow. Well,
There was supposed to be one today.
they didn't come?
No.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Hey, that's what I was
Yeah,
thinking of.
yeah.
And then tomorrow, Mike and I are doing what do you call that? It's the economic.
It's the Community Leadership Program put
Yeah.
on by the Iowa Business Partnership, which is the merger of the Chamber of Commerce and the Iowa City Area Development Groups. The goal of the program is to take community leaders, business leaders, and expose them to different areas of the community that they otherwise might not be exposed to.
Oh,
So we're gonna have a lot of people
Great,
that
yeah.
might not necessarily have a reason to come to the airport or be involved with things for the airport. And we're gonna talk about basically why the airport's important and how it affects the economic impact of the area. And kind of
It's-
timely conversations of stuff that's recently come out.
Yeah, and there's what,
Put
20,
your name on it.
25 people?
I don't remember. the
Something
list.
like
I know-
that.
I know I saw the list, but yeah.
But definitely a diverse group of, I mean, they're from all sorts of different industries and they're all probably relatively younger group, 20s, 30s, but
okay,
between hotels and city and different things like that. So it'll be really good to have them out.
sounds good.
So anyway, so they're coming tomorrow morning and then that's pretty much most of our
Okay.
stuff to talk about. One thing that will affect the industry a little bit is Continental is telling everybody to not fly their airplanes for a little bit. Continental sent out a notice for all 360s, 520s, 550s, and everything constructed from July of last year, 2020, or no, July of 2021 through yesterday. To not fly them until they send a notice out. About what needs to be
Everything
done.
serious then.
Yeah, so Cirrus sent out a message yesterday saying
I
that
just saw that today.
they're proactively grounding their fleet that they control with a nudge to also ground drone airplanes, but they didn't tell anybody that for liability purposes. And then the FAA, then Continental will come out with a service bulletin, and then the FAA will come out with an AD for something, and nobody knows exactly what it is.
Uh,
Do you have any idea at all?
Yeah, the rumors has something to do with a counterweight for the crankshaft being installed backwards. So the beveled edge is potentially on the wrong side, and like I say, it's all speculation until they come out with something.
Yeah.
But it would require some level of work.
Might require a new crank if it was put on backwards, because it would be pinching the fillet.
It could be, and that's the thing is, so,
That could be really major.
well, the problem is that the industry is so far behind. I mean,
Yeah.
up until, before any of this, Continental was, if you sent in for a tear down inspection, they said they'd look at it in 3 or 4 months,
Yeah.
and then it'd be done in a year. And so now they just grounded, 1,500 airplanes or more,
Or more.
1,000 Cirruses. So I don't know how many.
Plus every Cirrus that needs engine oil.
Plus, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so,
So you've got at any given time, probably about, 10% of the fleet needing engine work, right?
well, yeah, that's
Major.
major, potentially, yeah. And then, like I say, this whole thing, I had no idea how many airplanes Cirrus had built, but they had built almost 900 airplanes last year, and of that, 750 of them were SR-22s.
Yeah.
And so,
Well,
So-
and they're all Continentals.
and they're all Continentals, and so then that includes, then by the time you figure last year and the year before that, you're over 1,200 airplanes. probably. So anyway, just these are the kinds of things that just bog it down. That's what you've been, when we have customers or conversations with customers and consult them on buying things and doing different things. It's not just what you want anymore, because it's what you can get. And
Yes,
also,
and there aren't a lot of other options for
what you can
planes.
fly.
I mean,
well, not new, yeah.
because Access has started making the 182s again,
Mhm.
and they're only making the turbos, and
Yeah, they just started making the turbos again. They had the non-turbos and now the turbos and the 206.
okay, because they had
But-
discontinued those at one point.
They discontinued the turbos for
Did they?
several years. But anyway, so yeah, there's that, but then on the other side, there's also the workforce issues of training, if somebody buys a jet, for example. Most every jet, you can't get an initial training slot for a year. So you could buy it, but you couldn't fly it or whatever. So just things like that. I mean, there's just so many bottlenecks at the moment that it's gonna be. A slowdown actually wouldn't hurt at the moment, but at the same time. Just depends on where your
Crazy.
cards are.
Yeah.
So it'll be a fun year for sure. So, but that's all I've got.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Coming in,
Yes,
the T hangers that you see from Riverside,
Mhm.
it look like some of the lights were out.
that could be.
Probably. We're in the process of fixing several overhead lights.
The ones like
The
Like the-
LEDs
like
on the hanger.
the building is that long and there was one light here and then there were lights that were out the rest of it.
Yeah. Yeah, those are the LED lights on the
Yeah,
hangers.
okay. Well, anyway, those blue hangers, you might want it.
Who is that? I haven't been following all.
New Miller's
New
working
Miller's
on it.
working on it, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's collectively across the airport, there's about a dozen LED fixtures that died kind of all at the same time. We're working on getting replacements and they're all 8 years old, give or take. I mean,
So they'll be.
they were part of a project that was an LED conversion because we had the old halogen streetlights out there for a
Yeah.
while.
Okay.
So
they'll
yeah,
be
they're all
the
kind
new
of breaking at the same
lights
time.
then.
So
Okay.
Matt, I know you're servicing Cirrus, are you selling Cirrus as well?
So new is factory direct, but we were a Sears service center and then, we are in the network to be able to sell stuff, but it's factory direct for new. So, but we did go to Cirrus's conference. Jared, who's our service advisor, came. We went out to their conference a couple weeks ago, or that's where I was during the last. I just gotten back. Yeah, I just gotten back. And so anyway, but yeah, they had no mention of it there. Of course, this is all just this is all very, very recent, but
And then I heard that Textron acquired Pipistrel.
yeah.
Did you hear that?
I didn't hear
I
that.
didn't hear that. It's good.
Yeah, that happened a little while ago, didn't it?
I just recently noticed it. so,
Okay, yeah.
I don't know when it happened.
Yeah, I think they maybe acquired them a year ago-ish. Something like that, but
That'd be interesting.
so. Very good.
Thank you.
That'll bring that plane to,
The electric stuff, yeah.
and the electric stuff too, yeah. That'd be
The
big.
Panthera and
The Panthera
Definitely
and
need to look into
Sinus
electric.
and Virus and.
yeah, all those. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Thanks, Jen.
Tricycle,
Thank you.
electric would be a kind of an interesting.
Yeah, it would be a wonderful thing, yeah, especially if you could charge quickly, and you could swap the
Drive
battery.
carefully.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
It's nasty out there.
With the.
That's the-
You would-
I would think
Yeah,
so.
well, okay, any commission member reports?
Negative.
Anything? Nope.
I don't think so. Next
Okay,
meeting's in March.
next meeting's in March, staff, nothing that we haven't talked about. Okay, consider a motion to go into executive session under section 21.5. 1I of the Iowa Code to evaluate the professional competency of individuals whose appointment, hiring, performance, or discharge is being considered when necessary to prevent needless and irreparable injury to the individual's reputation and individual requests a closed session.
I will second that.
Yeah, you got the form. I didn't print one out. Okay.
Okay, now, question.
He has to stop the
We have
tapes.
to
Yeah,
switch
we
tapes.
do have to switch tapes. Carl, if you're still there.
Yep, I will see you. Good evening, everyone.
Bye, Carl.
Have a good night,
Good
Carl.
night.
And I didn't get who.
Judy
That was
moved.
Judy. By the time she described it, she had finished a motion.